Good afternoon. I'm Jay Flores, Global STEM Ambassador for Rockwell Automation and host of the series, It's Not Magic, It's Science. I'd like to welcome you to Creators Respond, inspiration from America's creators. It's well known that doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals have reached new heights in heroism this year. All of us are grateful for their work and the choice they make to put their lives on the line in the fight against COVID-19. Today, we want to put the spotlight on another group of heroes, the people who make things in America. And you can help us make this event an even bigger success. You can share our program on your social media accounts using hashtag MFGDay20. All throughout October, manufacturers will be hosting virtual events and increasing awareness about the opportunities available in the industry. And using this hashtag will help connect more young people to the possibilities that await them in modern manufacturing. To start today's programming, I'd like to welcome Jay Timmons, President and CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers, and Laura Phillips, Senior Vice President of Global Sourcing and U.S. Manufacturing at Walmart.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. You know, this pandemic has brought out a lot of heroes among us. Medical professionals, first responders, they're by far the most visible of all. They risk their lives to protect us and to stop the spread of COVID-19 every single day. But today, I'd like to point your attention to a different group of heroes, the manufacturers of America. These men and women, they're also in the business of saving lives, and they produce the emergency supplies, the daily essentials, the food supply, critical equipment, components for ventilators. And right now, they're working toward a vaccine and game-changing treatments. So, you know, manufacturing is one of those industries where the impact on people is felt plain as day. And that's why we need so many more young women and men in this field. The industry has an incredibly bright future, but that future will become even brighter if your children and your students choose to make careers in it. These young people today, they have a natural affinity for technologies in ways that my generation couldn't even contemplate when we were growing up. And you know, that makes them perfectly suited for modern manufacturing. Manufacturing requires an understanding of technology, of design interfaces, of coding and other complicated fields of study. It requires continued education and job training, and it can be whatever you put into it. In fact, there are millions of jobs in this industry waiting for the right people. And that's why the NAM partners with the Manufacturing Institute. Today, even with the economic conditions that we face, there are 450,000 open jobs in manufacturing, and that number is just going to keep growing. The Manufacturing Institute, it's all about finding talented, ambitious young people and connecting them with all the tools that they need to find a rewarding career as one of the people who make things in America. Now, we just celebrated MFG Day 2020, and that's where manufacturers across the country opened their doors. This year, they did it virtually and online to hundreds of thousands of young Americans. We're going to have similar events throughout October and throughout the rest of the year. And if you want to learn more about MFG Day and the other events and programs, you can go to creatorswanted.org. That's creatorswanted.org. I want to say a special thank you and give a big shout out to Walmart for making today's event possible. And also a special thank you to the parents and educators for your work in raising and educating the future of our industry and also our country.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Phillips, and I serve as Senior Vice President for Global Sourcing and U.S. Manufacturing at Walmart. I'm so pleased to welcome you to this session, sponsored by Walmart, titled Creators Respond, Inspiration from America's Creators, in which we'll hear from various business leaders about how their respective companies and industries have responded to the ongoing global pandemic and adjusted their business operations to help make a positive difference. The way businesses and entrepreneurs have mobilized and innovated to address the needs arising from this health crisis is impressive. And my hope is that you will leave inspired, encouraged, and proud of the work America's manufacturing sector is doing. U.S. manufacturing is vitally important to our nation's economic strength and well-being. U.S. manufacturers drive innovation, spur investment, and most importantly, U.S. manufacturers create jobs that make our communities more economically vibrant. These are some of the reasons why I am so honored to lead Walmart's U.S. Manufacturing Initiative. I, along with the thousands of Walmart associates all across the country, I'm so proud and excited about our company's ongoing commitment of investing in American jobs and U.S. manufacturing. In 2013, Walmart committed to supporting American jobs by purchasing an additional $250 billion in products that are U.S. manufactured, sourced, or assembled by the year 2023. We are 7 years into the 10-year journey, and we've had the benefit of seeing firsthand the difference that that kind of investment really makes. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we kicked off Manufacturing Month with our annual open call event, in which we invite entrepreneurs to pitch their U.S. manufactured products to our Walmart and Sam's Club merchant teams. We were blown away by this year's response. More than 4,800 companies from 49 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico had a U.S. manufactured product they wanted us to consider for placement in stores, clubs, or online. That's a 44% increase from last year's applications. And it's really amazing to see so many companies that are manufacturing their products right here in the U.S. These companies are innovating, they are investing, and they're creating jobs. And it's why we're so proud to be platinum sponsors of the Manufacturing Institute's Manufacturing Day 2020. Manufacturing Day is an important recognition of the millions of men and women who get up every day, and they have a hand in creating and making the items that we all use in our daily lives. Not only is it important work, but it also inspires the young people of our country. Manufacturing jobs today are so much more rewarding than sometimes they're given credit for. Often they're tech-enabled, integrating digital technologies and requiring a highly skilled workforce. And as you'll hear from our guests, U.S. manufacturers play an important role in addressing our country's needs during critical moments. Their creativity, agility, and proximity to the customer put them on the front lines of response. Thank you for joining us for this session, and I hope you'll make time to participate in all of the programs NAM and the Manufacturing Institute have planned this month to recognize our U.S. manufacturers. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jay and Laura. And now here's a look at how modern manufacturers have been saving lives and livelihoods.
Rosie the Riveter didn't earn her stripes by sitting on the sidelines. No, no, no. She laced up her boots, suited up, and set off. A beacon of hope, a flag bearer of America's destiny, a creator, a responder. As the sun rises this morning, men and women are waking up all across the country and following in her footsteps, heading off into uncharted waters, into a world in need of hope, in need of invention and ingenuity, in need of grit and determination, the same determination that made us the strongest nation this world has ever known. Researchers and innovators racing to find a cure, food manufacturers working through the night to keep aisles stocked, assembly lines changing entirely to create life-saving parts and products, arming the nurses and doctors on the front lines of this fight. Manufacturers across the nation are stepping up, raising their hands, saying, "This is our fight. Count us in. We are America's creators. This is how we respond."
It's so inspiring to see how manufacturers in the U.S. have fully mobilized and committed to the fight against COVID-19. Their teams are working around the clock to help us put this virus behind us. Up next, you'll hear more about how the manufacturing industry rose to the new challenges and countered obstacles this year.
Hi, I'm Erin Stolowitz. I'm the Senior Merchandising Director with the Consumables team at Walmart and lead the company's household paper business. As we just heard from Laura Phillips, at Walmart, we're really big fans of the amazing ways our country's manufacturing businesses and entrepreneurs innovate and respond to the needs of consumers. and it's a privilege for us to be a part of their successes. The last 7 months have been incredibly difficult for our country and the world. Businesses across industries have played and continue to play an important role in responding to the ongoing pandemic. Today, I'm so pleased to moderate this conversation with some of our country's leading manufacturers who give us a closer look at how their businesses have adapted and responded to the crisis. So with me today are Tia Jordan, the Vice President and Walmart Team Leader at Procter & Gamble, Nicole Wolter, the President and CEO of HM Manufacturing, and Mark Doyle, the founder of Rags of Honors. We're pretty used to virtual chats by now, so let's just jump in. Now, before diving into the talk about the manufacturer's response to COVID-19, can you just tell me a little bit about your companies and what you make? And we can start with Tia.
Sure. Procter & Gamble was founded over 180 years ago as a simple kind of soap and candle company. And today, Procter & Gamble is the world's largest consumer goods company. We have over 65 brands that are trusted by millions in their living rooms, kitchens, laundries, and bathrooms, and are used daily by over 5 billion consumers. And we operate in 180 different countries. A few of the brands you probably know that we make are Tide, Downy, Cascade, Charmin, Bounty, Olay, just to name a few.
Fantastic. And Nicole, do you want to introduce us to yourself and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a second generation manufacturing company, originally started in 1979 by my father, and we produce power transmission components, mainly gears, splines, shafts, shivs, timing belt pulleys. So anything that's gearbox related, conveyor belt systems for food processing, beverage, packaging, aerospace, medical, defense industry. So we do the whole gambit.
Fantastic. And Mark?
Thank you. I am honored to be on the panel with these amazing companies. My name is Mark Doyle, and I'm the founder of Rags of Honor. We are a silk screen and apparel company that I founded when I returned from Afghanistan. And our mission is really twofold: buy American, hire homeless and at-risk veterans. And to date, we've hired almost 100 homeless veterans. And that's really what drives our mission, is to make sure that nobody wore the uniform ever gets left behind.
Fantastic. Now, the first question is that NAM President and CEO Jay Timmons, among others, have called COVID-19 response the largest mobilization of U.S. manufacturing base since World War II. How would you describe what you've seen for manufacturers and industry overall in response to COVID-19? I'll start with Tia.
Okay, well, let me just share a little bit about what we've done at Procter & Gamble and what I've seen having worked in the company. You know, for us, all the things that we've been doing have been guided by three core principles during this crisis. And the first was to make sure that our employees are protected and healthy. The second was to make sure that we supported our communities in which we live, including the relief agencies and the people who are on the front lines of this global pandemic. And then finally, we wanted to focus on providing the brands that people count on to take care of their personal health and hygiene and make sure that they create and ensure their homes are safe for their families. And in some cases during COVID-19, this has been a huge challenge. I'm sure you guys have all heard about, there was a toilet paper crisis where people couldn't find toilet paper. Because what was happening is consumers were spending more times in their homes and they're increasing their cleaning habits and stocking up their pantries. And we were already producing, Erin, as you know, at max capacity. So then the question is, you have this huge surge coming on, and how do you respond? Now, the good news with our Charmin, Bounty, and Puffs products is we're 100% manufactured in the U.S. and our materials are sourced from North America and a little bit from Latin America, but we didn't have to wait for materials to be shipped from overseas. But we didn't have we couldn't just drop another paper making machine into the plants because they're very big, they're very expensive, they take up like a football field. But what we saw was the huge responsiveness of our workforce and our employees and the ownership that they had to really take the call and increase production and do everything they can to make sure that we could meet the consumer demand that we saw as people needed our products during this time. So it was super encouraging to see how an organization responded, the incredible business ownership, and we're operating 24/7 as we continue to try to make paper each and every day, and we've been doing that for many, many months now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think as both your retail partner and as a consumer, I've appreciated what P&G has done around bulk paper. Nicole, how about you? What have you seen in terms of manufacturers' response to the crisis?
Well, it's been very interesting. It's been a lot of camaraderie. So many of us have banded together to try to figure out how we could make our workspaces safer for our employees, whether it was masks or cleaning or any of that type of sanitation. But it was wonderful to hear from our customers as well that they made sure that we were deemed essential. And then we were nonstop. We were trying to do whatever we could with our employees to, whether it was spacing them out 6 feet apart or trying to do shifts that were staggered. But it was great. We've been banding together. We've been doing really well. And for us in food processing, beverage packaging, and medical, we've really been seeing an uptick in orders. And anything that came through that was COVID related, we made sure that that went straight to the shop floor, and that was an immediate need and a necessity so that we could help the American people as well.
That's fantastic. It's great to see the way you guys were able to sort of prioritize those most important products. And Mark, how about you? What have you observed?
My problem was multi-layered because we hire homeless veterans, we get them into an apartment, but they take public transportation. We were in the middle of a replenishment of T-shirts for Walmart. T-shirt manufacturing was not essential. So we couldn't fulfill. I couldn't have people, they shut down the CTA, so I couldn't have people coming to work. And we made a pivot, which ultimately helped us sort of save the company for the year. The same cotton that was going to go into our T-shirts, we pivoted, made the pitch to the buyer at Walmart to say, if we could bring everybody back, could we take the same T-shirts, make cotton masks out of them, and we just started another division called Masks of Honor. And we put 300 people back to work,
Wow.
9 people back at our place here, and ended up having a complete pivot to from the things that were T-shirts into masks. And we couldn't have done that, again, back to the Made in America piece of it, because supply chain issues were a problem. But we already had the cotton. They ordered 300 more sewing machines. We had a labor force. We just had to pivot the product. And we couldn't have done that if we had to wait for product to come from overseas.
That's fantastic. It's great to see you guys were able to pivot and provide a product that the customers needed at that time. Mark, you started to talk about your labor force, and I wanted to ask, do you think Americans now have a greater appreciation for the dignity of manufacturing work? And what do you think parents should know more about when it comes to how manufacturers have aided the country during this pandemic?
I think they do, and I've seen it from our workforce for sure. And I don't want to get too much on a soapbox here, but I spent a year in Afghanistan as part of an anti-corruption task force, and that was the genesis for the company. And while I was there, we did flow of funds analysis, and $1 billion a month is being spent to clothe, feed, and train the Afghan army and police. All the uniforms were being made in China, and it stuck with me. And so when I came back, and we saw suicide start to rise, homelessness start to rise among the veteran population, I decided 2 things were going to be the basic tenets of my company. We're going to make everything in America. We're only going to use American-made products. And we're going to find homeless and at-risk veterans.
That's great. I think right now customers are really, making purchasing decisions based on how they align with their values. So I think your story really resonates during this time period. Nicole, how about you? What would you say to parents that have students that are considering manufacturing and how they should be thinking about the importance of this work?
Well, for us, we're very specialized, and we are very much involved with the supply chain for big corporations. And there is a huge resurgence of these big corporations to bring everything back to America. And we have smart technology out there. We have a modern manufacturing facility. We have cobots. We have machines that have iPads on them, and we're looking for skilled workers. And right now, I have paid internships that are even in high school that are $15 an hour, which I think is very important to do, because if you can go to McDonald's and get a job there for $15 an hour with really no skills, I think that as manufacturers, we should be doing the same and helping out with our skilled workers and the future workforce. So I send them to training. I think it's absolutely imperative that they know that we do have modern manufacturing. It is a clean facility with bright lights and fun technology and new technology that's coming out with VR and AR, and all of those things required skilled machinists, skilled engineers. And the lowest paid worker here that I have is $20 an hour. So that actually says a lot. And I think we're only going to see more of that happen. And we have great benefits packages, and you don't have to go into debt just to get a job. And we're always going to need manufacturing.
Amazing. And then I'll just kick it over to Tia. What would you and MPG want to share around, manufacturing and the importance of this work?
Well, I think Mark and Nicole kind of summarized it really well in terms of what you say to parents and students. But Procter & Gamble, our paper products, for example, are all made in the U.S. We have 6 plants in manufacturing. We've seen lots of the communities come together. We've seen people come together. We've seen our employees work to help each other as well as their communities. And so I think that, the country comes together when there's a crisis, and I think it's terrific that we all have great careers and jobs and opportunities for young people to work in manufacturing. We have them at Procter & Gamble. We have many, many manufacturing plants here. We also have other careers like in marketing and sales and finance and all kinds of exciting opportunities. And I think that that's the opportunity for folks, but also during this pandemic, it's just great to see how lots of companies have come together to help each other out, and communities have come together to help out the families.
Fantastic. Now, I think, responding to COVID-19 at Walmart definitely required us to think differently and test out new ways of working faster than we ever have before. And we've obviously just heard some ways that your companies responded in terms of prioritization of products, making different products. But is there anything else you guys can add in terms of new practices or learnings that your companies established during COVID-19 that you plan to use going forward? And I can start with Tia.
Yeah, well, what was really interesting, beyond just supplying our products and keeping our employees safe, we really tried to figure out what we could do to sort of help. So particularly in the area of like face masks, face shields, hand sanitizers. So we were able to modify our equipment to produce hand sanitizers across like a dozen of our manufacturing sites. We wanted to make sure that we were producing like non-medical face masks so that other people could use them, so that we could use the medical face masks for the hospitals and the people that needed those. Our Mahoopany plant in Pennsylvania, for example, was making masks. And then we're just, leveraging our R&D and engineering manufacturing capability to produce face shields out of Boston and Cincinnati. We've donated them to hospitals and COVID-19 testing centers, and to date we've donated hundreds of thousands to help with the most immediate needs. So there's a lot of things we were able to kind of rally to do to help both the country and also critical needs that people had.
All right, so back to Nicole. Your company makes critical products for a number of industries, for automotive, food, beverage, and defense. So as the crisis happened, I'm sure you had to balance, meeting those customer needs along with balancing the health and safety, of your team members, and also servicing some of those new COVID response orders. So how did your team respond to the pandemic? And also, do you think there's something in the nature of sort of the manufacturer, the creator, that makes you well suited to be responsive to these kinds of challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are just so used to everything being hot, 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 need the next day. So that type of stuff wasn't new for us. I mean, we're used to having to break into the machines and having to reprogram and restart just to get stuff out the door for certain customers. And this was no exception.
Mark, I'd love for you to share just a little bit more. You've talked a little bit about the mission of your company, but if you can talk a little bit more about what you do, supporting homeless and at-risk veterans, and really what are your plans for that as you look forward?
So the hope for this company was that someday we would hopefully be a national brand. We are a brand made in America. We hire homeless and at-risk veterans. Well, the goal is always to continue to build. Walmart has been a huge part of our success. But we have a nonprofit as well. And one of the things that you can imagine, if you've been homeless, you get your first apartment that you maybe ever, because if you went from high school to the military, out, lost your job, ended up in a shelter, you don't have any money in the bank to write a security deposit. So we do everything from the transition to hiring them. And then I have a nonprofit that sits above it all, that all the money that goes into that nonprofit, I roll money from the company in. We make sure that everybody gets an apartment after their first month with us, get them out of the shelter, security deposit, we get them a bed. We always give bus cards. We also fund a procedure that's called the stellate ganglion block that helps to cure PTSD. And we're the only people that are actively funded. And I will tell you that the people that we hire who have some of that very traumatic incidents during the military career, we've literally saved their lives by using this procedure. And our entire mission, whether it's on the apparel side or the coffee side, is always to find the ones that are going to fall through the cracks, get them a skill, pay them a living wage, help them reintegrate, and just get the life back that they earned. That's all. Just the life that all of us take for granted. A living wage, a bonus. I paid bonuses the last few years, even though we don't have any money, to give everybody something. Because, and I will say this, and you all see it in your own life. When you're on your last, when you're in a shelter and you have nowhere to go but up, and somebody says to you, you're hired, and you've probably seen this if you've ever hired somebody who doesn't have $1 left in the bank. It's one of the most profound words I've ever found in the English language is to tell somebody who doesn't have $1 in their pocket that they are hired and they start tomorrow. And as we say, we can't change the whole world, but we change the world around us. And with every one of those veterans, several of them have gone on to get married, get children, and so we see them what they're looking at. And we just keep trying to do the next right thing every day.
Mark, you have such an inspiring story, right? I think we're all moved by what you're saying, and it's clear you're really truly making a difference. And there's a nonprofit arm, but you're also giving these individuals sort of dignity and a really value and skills in an important industry. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I think part of our audience is students and parents of students that are thinking about manufacturing. So I'll start with Nicole, and then if anybody else wants to add, but what would you say about the potential opportunities in modern manufacturing, and the points you'd want to drive home around careers in manufacturing, in times of need like this, or really in any time?
So I think what's super important is that manufacturing is always changing. It's always evolving. We're always updating. We are an innovative crew. Things that you saw from back in the day to what it is now is just so different. We have machinery that's coming online with virtual reality and AR, and you can put on goggles and you can see what's happening with the machine if it's throwing out errors and alerts, and you can literally take and figure out where these problems are, and it'll contact your provider or your group. So whether it's Spanik, whether it's Mazak, and they'll tell you, they'll troubleshoot with you, but online, and say, here's really where your problems are. These are the parts that you're going to need. So that helps streamline, that helps with efficiency, that helps with production. And I think those things are really cool and they're really neat. And that's changing the game for manufacturing. It is not just your old World War II machine with coolant spilling all over the place. It's not. It is high tech. We pay well. We do whatever we can to retain our workers. I know that we're always invested into upskilling our workforce. Even now, if someone comes up to me and says that they have an interest in doing something else or looking at adding to their list of credentials, I have no problem sending that, because I think it's super important that we invest in our employees, because it helps with us and it helps gain traction with our customers. I'm a young crew, so my average workforce is actually 35 years old. I employ anywhere from 18 all the way up into our 50s. And so I think it's really great for people to realize that we're relatable. So we do have that young workforce, and we are super concerned about keeping the next generation involved. And like Tia was saying, it's not just machinists. We need engineers. We need quality control. We need sales. We need marketing and advertising and accounting and purchasing. And there's so much more to it that people don't understand. Plant managers. I mean, my plant manager is 30 years old and he's running the entire facility right now out in the back. And what a great thing that is to kind of showcase that he came doing really just flanging and assembly, and he was able to grow through the ranks and to take on that type of responsibility. So there is room for growth. And I know Gen Z is always looking for career paths and having some flexibility, but being able to see a career out of it. And this is definitely a career. It's not going anywhere.
That's awesome. I think we started out saying that this has been the biggest, mobilization of U.S. manufacturing since World War II. But I'll say manufacturing has changed a lot since World War II and really become modernized. And it's a whole different industry with a lot of technology driving it. So Tia Jordan from Procter & Gamble, Nicole Wolter from HM Manufacturing, and Mark Doyle from Rags of Honor. Thanks so much for spending time with us and sharing your stories, and really for the difference that you're making right now and every day. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thanks to our panelists for sharing their stories with us. Let's keep this momentum going. Up next is Uwo from Honda explaining how engineers at his company got involved in the fight against COVID.
A Dallas hospital just received a donation of 5,000 face shields from an automotive giant. When the COVID-19 pandemic started, Honda used its vehicle parts production line to create personal protective equipment for frontline hospital workers. 20,000 face shields were split between 4 hospitals nationwide, and Baylor Medical Center in downtown Dallas was one of them.
We have the ability to manufacture those types of things, and it was in need. So it's just another way that we can help out the frontline workers and use our resources to really help them out while other people use their strengths as well.
When all this is said and done, Honda will donate 170,000 face shields to hospitals in this first wave of COVID-19 related relief.
We started with the design. Once we knew the flow analysis, we started to build the die. But then there's a lot of intricacies. How do you source the material, right, for the frames? How do you source the material for the shields themselves? And even the suspension strap, how do you source those? So we really pulled from a lot of different sources of our company. We work with our research and development team. We work with the engineering team, with our purchasing team, manufacturing, logistics, we pulled together as one Honda team to really expedite everything that's needed to create this in a very, very tight frame. How do you make a face shield? The whole team pulled together and we had brainstorming sessions. Very proud of what this team has achieved. We're really showing and living our Honda philosophy, our core values. The team's really stepped up to the challenge of tight time frame, finding resources, finding all the material. The passion that they've shown to really make a difference around not only here in North America, because we're also sharing this design with Japan, so they can deploy this concept that we made. I think the joy of creating is unbelievable on this project. We're creating something so quickly that has the potential to make such a great impact to our local community and to ourselves. So that joy really transcends everything that the team is working on, and we can feel it in every meeting and every challenge that we have. That really allows us to overcome some of those hurdles. I think there's a sense of accomplishment for the whole team. You know, we did it. We're able to realize this dream, make it a reality in the very difficult environment, different conditions that we have.
Ubo's insights are a testament to the versatility and range of manufacturers in America. We're fortunate to have them on our side. The voice you hear next may sound familiar. That's because we're being joined by none other than radio legend Elvis Duran. But he won't be talking with Uncle Johnny today. If you're a fan, you got that one. Instead, he'll interview two talented manufacturing workers from New Balance and Nephron Pharmaceuticals so we can learn just what happens when creators respond. So don't touch that dial. Please welcome Elvis Duran.
Welcome to MFG Day. It's Manufacturing Month. I'm Elvis Duran with an incredible session today entitled Creators Respond. So look, it doesn't matter if you're a student, a parent, an educator, everyone's trying to help each other figure out how to get on that perfect career path. So a career in manufacturing. Well, what does manufacturing mean? It could be so many different things. I was talking to a friend of mine before this session today. I said, what does the word manufacturing mean to you? And of course, the first thing that comes to mind is this big, huge building with big smokestacks spewing all sorts of carcinogens into the sky. That's not what manufacturing is. What I guess it was back in years and years ago, but now manufacturing is a massive spectrum of so many different industries that you may be passionate about, and that could be where your career path is waiting for you. So today in our Creators Respond session, we have two people from two different worlds, two different companies who have come together recently because of COVID-19, and to watch how they have found their place in their careers and how they are helping out with COVID-19 and moving our lives forward in a healthy way. They're excellent for this exact topic we're talking about in the session. First of all, Paul Johnston. Hi, Paul, with that really cool New Balance mask.
How you doing?
I'm jealous. We all want one. So Paul Johnston is a new product engineer at New Balance, part of its research development team, very critical to the design and manufacturing implementation of this New Balance mask program. You were also recently promoted this year to lead New Balance's Made commercialization team, and you're going to explain to us what that means. Welcome to the session, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Dalton Miller from Nephron Pharmaceuticals. For anyone out there looking to see how to get on the perfect career path, your story is very, very, very fitting today. Of course, Dalton started as an intern at Nephron, turned apprentice, now is full-time. And of course, they are working diligently during this COVID-19 crisis on keeping respiratory drugs moving forward and keeping us healthy and that like. So tell me, at what age did you start at Nephron exactly?
Actually, I started when I was 22. I'm 23 now. I've only been at Nephron for around 6 months now.
Wow. So to be going from intern to apprentice to full time in that amount of time, obviously they saw something in you that was very valuable to them. And so we moved to Paul Johnston. I want to hear your story as well. How did you get started at New Balance?
So coming out of college in Maine, I was working in a manufacturing environment for a paper plate company and was looking for, I went to school as a mechanical engineer. So I was looking for any type of manufacturing engineer jobs out there. My family was all kind of from a manufacturing background. They all worked in paper plate mills or, other paper mills. And so it was kind of, I would say, my blood to kind of go down that path. It just so happened that a New Balance position popped up, which I thought was really cool and intriguing to be in that kind of industry. So I started there about 7 years ago now, and started as an industrial engineer, which is a little different than what I went to school for, and kind of worked my way up into R&D, and then ended up managing a group in the R&D department.
So, Paul, you say you grew up in a family of manufacturers, manufacturing professionals. What about you, Dalton? Was manufacturing in your family blood as well, or is this something that you tripped into by design? Tell us about how you got into it.
Well, actually, both my grandfathers worked at Eastman Kodak in New York, and of course I've always lived in South Carolina. But and my dad, he was more of a residential, non-commercial background, but still kind of like, tech, more of a tech job itself though. But yeah, so I guess you could say I've kind of come from that background.
So I doubt anyone who's not from a manufacturing family wakes up one day and says, I want to be in manufacturing, because manufacturing is so many things. And we're about to find out two of those things right now. We'll start with you, Paul. What do you do every day? What is it what does your job involve on a day-to-day basis?
So right now, I just recently got promoted, but I used to be on the team, as a contributor of the team that I now manage. So we're involved with developing and documenting the processes for how would a shoe go together. So that, we're given kind of a sketch on a piece of paper, if you will, or an early prototype, and we're kind of asked to figure out how to make it work for manufacturing. So we do a lot of trialing and trying to work out the bugs and the kinks so that we can successfully implement it into the manufacturing environment, for full scale production.
So you were there the day that New Balance decided to go from a shoe focus to a mask focus. That must have been an interesting day, an interesting meeting. Can you tell us about what that was like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, we're working from home at that point, and still kind of doing business as usual, not knowing what was going to go on with COVID and everything. And then, I got a phone call from my boss, and he said, "Hey, we got a small group of people we're trying to get together. We have the ability to do something. We have the technology to be able to do something. We have a ton of people willing to help. So, let's get together and figure out how the heck we can pull something together." And, from there, it went from meeting one time in the office to within a week, we had a prototype that we're starting to produce. And it was just an unbelievable kind of, thing to be a part of.
What does it mean to you personally to be a part of this team?
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, with everything that, the frontline workers have done for our community, it was just an amazing feeling to be able to support them in their time of need. And, personally, I'm grateful that New Balance, gave me the opportunity to be able to do something like that. And I'm just lucky to have been, a part of something like that. So.
Wow. Now, Dalton, being at Nephron, of course, Nephron already in the pharmaceutical lane. So, of course, with pharmaceuticals being so important, especially now with COVID-19 rolling through, what's it like working on your team? And what's your day-to-day job like at Nephron?
Well, my day-to-day job, I work on the line directly where the medicine is being filled and sent down the line and packaged. So it's been pretty crazy around here. We've really ramped up a lot with our medication because of COVID. So,
is there a personal sense of satisfaction going in and knowing that you're a part, just like Paul was talking, a part of the big plan to move us forward and keep us safe during COVID-19?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're really proud here about the role that we play in all this. Just to know that we're making life-saving medicine and helping people, it's a great feeling.
So can you explain to us exactly what the respiratory medicines that Nephron is producing is helping fight COVID-19 or help us get through it?
Yeah, so we make a lot of inhalation medicines that go in nebulizers, and basically they're designed to treat severe respiratory symptoms, and that just so happens to be a part of COVID.
Right. Now, Paul, back to New Balance for a moment. I mean, I know it started out with face masks for doctors in the medical field. And then is it true it actually went off to a new design of face masks for people in athletics? And also now for people like me who aren't athletic at all? I mean, this thing has turned into a very, very multi-tiered presentation of New Balance and what you can do.
Yeah, it was awesome because even as we were, developing the first prototype to just get something out there to, help the, first responders and people on the front lines, we were continually evolving into other ways to design it and manufacture it. Not only, so that it'd be easy for anybody to manufacture it in the business. So like you had managers out there that have never worked a day in their life on the line out there working next to, people who were making shoes on a daily basis. So, I mean, just being a part of that evolution and, getting input from, manufacturing experts. And it was amazing to see and be a part of.
Hey, Dalton, what's your favorite part of your job? What's the best part?
I kind of talked about it previously, but just knowing our role in the big picture of helping save lives.
Right. Very closely related to, I'm sure, Paul's as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why should a student consider a career in manufacturing? What do you know, maybe most likely, that students and parents and educators probably need to know and don't know yet? We'll start with you, Paul.
I mean, so, when I was a student and I didn't really know this until I got into the industry, what I was concerned about was, whether or not, would there be a job available when I graduate? Is it something I'm going to enjoy, and if it isn't, what are my options? I think what's great about, the industry is that, there's so many disciplines and sectors to choose from, and there's, each of them have tons of opportunities for growth and development. So, not only do you have the security of knowing there will be jobs available when you graduate, but you have the flexibility to, maybe pivot into roles that until you ultimately find the job that you love, and the career that's fulfilling. So, I mean, having that kind of sense of security as a student is something that kind of, I think is important to understand when trying to pick, what career you want to go down.
So question, what should a student be considering right now? What should they be thinking about in their own lives that they're living right now? And how can they apply that to which manufacturing career would be best for them?
Well, I mean, and when we talk about manufacturing, there's a lot of support functions too. So it's not just, for example, the first thing you think of is, an engineer, again, I went into mechanical engineering, which has nothing to do with industrial engineering. But what I really loved was to solve problems. I love to help people and solve problems. And I think, I do that in different ways. And I think, again, it's not just engineers that we need. We need, people in HR. We need people in marketing. We need people in sales. We need, all of those functions to make manufacturing thrive. So I think, there's a lot of ways to go at it. And again, like I said, there's so many opportunities that, whatever you love, you can find, a job in manufacturing. I think the big thing to me was if you have the pride, I have a lot of pride in making products in the US. And I think that's kind of a big driver for me to even, go into that. I think it's a very important, field.
Excellent. What about you, Dalton? What should a student or parent be considering if they are interested in finding out more about a career in manufacturing?
That's what just Paul was right. I mean, there's just so many different parts of the industry. I mean, you can really there's just so many opportunities, I think, and it all depends on what you want to do with whatever makes you happy. Me personally, I did the traditional college and got an associate's degree, and then realized that I didn't really want like an office job per se. I wanted to work with my hands and kind of go that route. So that's what I was able to find a spot that kind of, fulfilled that for me here. So that's what I just really, you just got to follow your heart, I guess. That's the best advice I can give.
Absolutely. It's that passion, follow your passion, never be afraid to do that. So last question, I'll start with you, Paul, finish the sentence. Modern manufacturing is what?
Well, I mean, to me, modern manufacturing is a great way to, use creativity and problem solving to help improve the lives of others.
What about you, Dalton? What is modern manufacturing to you?
I'd say growing. It's definitely booming around here, and I think that can be said for pretty much everywhere.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. Manufacturing Month celebrating here on MFG Day. Of course, we've been speaking with Paul Johnston from New Balance and Dalton Miller from Nephron Pharmaceuticals. It's a pleasure meeting you guys and finding out more about what you do and how you got to where you are. Thank you, gentlemen, and have a very safe day. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You do the same.
Thank you, Paul and Dalton, for sharing your stories. We're very excited about this next part of our program. It turns out that you can make a difference in manufacturing from just about anywhere and any age. In fact, Baltimore high school students have been doing just that. Working with the organization Dent Education, these students have helped assemble over 21,000 face shields this year, providing valuable resources for healthcare professionals and first responders. Chris Kafalis of the Creators Wanted campaign is with these creators.
Make a dent. You just saw it bounce on your screen in intro to this segment. Well, we're here right now with students from Baltimore, part of an organization, Dent Education, that has done exactly that in response to COVID-19, but broadly speaking. Dent Education is a 501c3 nonprofit that promotes equity and seeks to empower young people by tapping that innate creative potential within them to shape the world around them. And so thank you all for being with us. And Rajan, I'm going to start with you. What is Dent Education? And tell us a little bit about the program that you have helped co-lead and build.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Chris. As you said, Dent Education, we're a nonprofit based in Baltimore City, and we get the privilege of working with high schoolers. And our goal is to empower youth to realize that they are creators and change makers, and to be able to develop those skills through our programs. And you can think of it as in our programs, they learn to build stuff, which means making, which can be anything from 3D printing and laser cutting to fashion design or making music and podcasts or digital creation like graphic design. But not only do they make stuff, they can create impact. And when they create that impact, they can create value and capture that value for themselves. So, that's what we do our programs around. And I think, especially when COVID hit, we leaned into our mindsets and what we have as power to create change around us. And just really proud of how our students have adapted and responded.
It's really incredible. I mean, when we think of the COVID response, and we're talking this program about how manufacturers have responded to it, we really have seen it from all walks of life and from all people. But I think your story is particularly impressive, right? You all, having your own lives, your own interests, your own passions and pursuits. And when all this broke, you decided to step up and do something. So Amaya, you decided to do something with Made at Dent. What is Made at Dent, and what did you do in response to the pandemic?
Made at Dent is a youth-run business that puts that spotlights the youth of Baltimore, that's providing face shields for essential workers. And we're going to start platforming other youth entrepreneurs and putting their stuff out there on our website and all of that. And you said, how did I respond to the pandemic? Basically, do as I was told, stay inside because of quarantine and all of that, wear face masks whenever I go out, be 6 feet apart, be safe as I can be, but mostly stay inside because, yeah.
And so all this is going on, you're staying inside, you're social distancing, you're wearing your face mask, you're having to navigate, school closing early, virtual situations all the time. And so Zaiden, you're creating face shields. What did you do? What was your role? I mean, on your lower third right now, it says, you're a co-owner of Made a Dent. What does that mean? What were you able to achieve?
Yeah, so as a Made a Dent operations co-owner, what it means is I actually, lead and facilitate a lot of what the operations team does. And, that means like I'm doing all sorts of stuff like setting up meetings or telling fellow makers not really what to do, but like giving them suggestions on how to keep going. And even now and then, sometimes I do go into the actual facility, but they always make sure there's not many people there. And a lot of times, it's either just me or me and someone else. And we try to make things run smoother as far as going from the facility to people's homes, and just making sure things run how they should without anyone being too close to each other and violating the rules of COVID.
Sure. Yeah. Now, Shay, how did you approach sort of this project, right? Designing, producing, all the elements of working with technology. Kind of take me through what happened and your role.
So at the beginning of the COVID, we actually started producing face shields, and that was my initial role. I was making face shields, but as months progressed, we were assigned roles, and I am the sales Made Dent sales co-owner. And what I do there is basically I network and collaborate with potential customers and just keep contact with customers that we have at the moment. And we just basically reach out to people and pitch our ideas with Made It Dent and our products to those people so that we can extend our vision throughout Baltimore and throughout the world.
It's incredible. So Chloe, this initiative is going on. You're having an instrumental role in the project, and then you get to see the impact that you're able to make. What did that feel? What does it feel to have been part of, not just Baltimore's response to this pandemic, but a really inspirational story from Made at Dent for the work that you were able to do and achieve?
Well, at first it felt like, I'm not making much of a difference. This is just a summer job. But it was crazy. One of my friends told me that they saw someone wearing a dent shield, face shield out in public. And I was just like, wow, that's insane that our creations are being used to help people and support people through this pandemic. And I think it's an amazing feeling to feel like what we're doing is actually making an impact on people and trying to aid people through this pandemic. And it's just incredible.
And Zaiden, same sort of question. What does it feel to be part of this? And what does it say about your power to make a difference?
So, that feeling when you stop a microwave before it goes off in the middle of the night? That's kind of how it felt for me. Whereas though, when COVID started, I had absolutely nothing to do. My idea was I was going to sit there and I was going to sleep all day and that was going to be it. And then Dent came and it was like, all right, so this whole COVID thing, we got a plan. Ever since I hopped on board, so much more interesting stuff started happening. Like even stuff if COVID didn't happen, it was like even more interesting than that. So it's like, what was expected to be like a super boring, mundane life, became all of this. Like right now we're on whatever this is, the whole thing is just a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of step back even broader than just one little, big project in the scheme of things. This creating, making something that has an impact. I want to kind of quickly go around this circle of conversation. What grade and what school are you going to right now? And Amaya, what grade in school are you at right now?
Right now, I am a junior and I attend Baltimore City College High School.
And Shay, same question.
I am a senior attending Western High School.
Chloe?
I am a sophomore and I attend Baltimore City College.
And Zaiden?
I'm a junior at Baltimore Design School.
So if I asked you before coming into this program and this initiative, how many of you would raise your hand and said you would have thought of creative career before being part of Made at Dent? Raise your hand. Now that, okay, Zaiden, I see Shay raising her hand. After this program and being a part of this project over the summer, how many of you would consider a career that involves creating and making something? I know, Shay, you already raised your hand, so we've got you involved and engaged. But so what does that say to you? And it's a similar question that I asked Zaid and Shay about, your potential, your own sense of self-identity by being a part of something like this.
I think that goes to say that like just being a part of the program, being a part of Made It Done is like can like revolutionize like anybody's like view on anything, I guess. Like the way that Chloe and Amai didn't raise their hands shows that at the beginning they weren't really motivated to make much of a change or be as innovative, but being a part of this program is really like struck them, and it struck myself as well to just be better.
Amaya, one of the things I think it's good for people who are watching to get a sense of everything that goes in to being a creator. Right before we started this, we talked a little bit about creativity, teamwork, the innovation that you draw from your peers. What has it meant for you to be a part of this initiative?
It means a lot, especially if I have like a really good inspirational team behind me, which I do, because they are very inspirational and inspiring. They push me to do the best that I can and some. Push me to do the best that I can and some, and also do the same with other people. So like with my stream, I'm the people ops man, or I'm the co-owner of the people operations stream, and they're pushing us to collaborate with some of the new students that's in our fall program, and they want us to collaborate with them so they can become one of our stream. They be part of our stream. So being part of this initiative really puts a lot of collaboration out there and teamwork and making sure that you can get it done and to have more done. And if once it's done, another idea is created. So
No, it's great. And so, Zaiden, we're running out of little time right now. If you had a message that you wanted to relay to students, parents, the broad national audience that's watching us today about what you're doing, about creating or making a dent in a better world, what would that message be?
Any ideas that you have, just go for them. Because, if there was any time, now's the time to do the research, especially if you're sitting and lounging around. And it's like you get what you put in. So, effort is so important now, and now more than ever, because it's like times are hard and you're going to have to try hard. But, once you put in all effort now, once things start up and you have what you want, it's going to be so nice.
That's a great message to send to everyone. And so, Rajan, I wish I could spend more time with all of you to tell more of this story. But if someone wants to learn more of the story, someone wants to possibly replicate or even support DENT education, how would they do that and where do they go?
Absolutely. So you can visit us at denteducation.org to learn more about the organization and what we do. And you can also go to madeatdent.com, and that's MADEAT dent.com. And you can directly purchase our face shields there. And these wonderful young folks and others will make sure to actually get it created and delivered to you. But you can also reach out to us there about what we're doing. And so, we'd love to hear from people, any advice, feedback, collaborations, any support. We're here and we're excited to be part of this. And again, I just want to say my gratitude to these young people and all the other students who have really made this a reality. Since March, when we started this crazy idea and we're making face shields from Ziploc bags and stuff lying around the house, we have now created over 30,000 face shields. And Baltimore City itself has purchased over 12,000 from us. So I think it's so powerful, as Chloe was saying, about knowing that the thing you've built is used and having impact. These are the young leaders who have literally helped our city get through this crisis and keep our people safe. And if that isn't a statement to the power of youth and hope of that, hey, our world is going in a good direction, no matter how hard it can seem some days. They're an inspiration, and it's just an honor to be able to work with them.
Well, you are all an incredible inspiration. And Rajan, you too, building this, creating this opportunity and opening eyes and minds to what everyone's capacity can be by creating and making a difference, you're doing that. So thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And if you want to learn more about creating a future, making a difference, Den Education is your resource, and so is creatorswanted.org. Thanks for joining us, everyone. All right, back to you, Jay.
Now I'll pass the baton over to Carolyn Lee, Executive Director of the Manufacturing Institute. The MI is the workforce development and education partner of the National Association of Manufacturers, and its mission is to grow and support the industry's skilled workers for the advancement of modern manufacturing. Please take us into the home stretch, Carolyn.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Lee, the Executive Director of the Manufacturing Institute. Modern manufacturing is one of the most high-tech industries in the country today. Digitalization and artificial intelligence have transformed manufacturing work, putting it on par with the kind of careers you might see in Silicon Valley. Manufacturing pays well, too. We have great benefits and opportunities for continued education, and we provide avenues for career growth. But despite all of this, we're hearing a strong message from manufacturers: creators wanted. Two of the statistics we at the MI constantly cite are the number of jobs that will be needed before the end of the decade, 4.6 million, and the number of jobs that will likely go unfilled during the same period, 2.4 million. Those numbers, by the way, come from our regular landmark skills gap study with our partners at Deloitte. So the jobs are out there, but there aren't enough young American women and men with the training needed to get started or to keep helping us respond to the future crises like COVID-19. And we're also facing down misperceptions about careers in manufacturing. The Manufacturing Institute and our partners want to solve this problem. We're working with allies like the Caterpillar Foundation, Deloitte, and Walmart to fix this. Our mission is to provide the kind of workforce training needed to build a talent pipeline and close the skills gap. For today's discussion, I'm joined by Asha Varghese, President of the Caterpillar Foundation, and Paul Welliner, U.S. Industrial Products and Construction Leader at Deloitte Consulting LLP. I'd like to get this conversation started with a question for Asha. So today, we'll be talking about how manufacturers have responded to COVID-19. It's really a source of inspiration for anyone who wants to think about what careers their kids could be doing. As you look at your team at CAT, what inspires you about the company's COVID-19 response?
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Carolyn, and the Manufacturing Institute, and great to be part of this conversation. Boy, what a year we've had with COVID-19. It's been truly unprecedented, a pandemic beyond borders. But the Caterpillar Foundation has been part of a lot of the corporate responses that we're seeing. And it's really amazing to see how corporations have stepped up to the plate. And as part of our response, we partnered with a variety of partners across the globe. So it was very important for us to be able to look at the span of activities that are going on and engage with partners globally to address this pandemic. So there are three things I would say, Carolyn, that was truly inspiring in the way we've approached it at the Caterpillar Foundation. One is in the leadership and culture. To be able to react very quickly, and as the brand goes of let's do the work, in being able to get out there and respond very quickly to this pandemic, and really brings that as part of our ethos to be able to say that how do we be nimble, and how do we really respond to this and to the need that we're seeing on the ground. The second part of it's really in the partnerships. And I think one of the reasons, as you alluded to, we cannot do it alone. We really need to be able to build that partnerships. What really inspired me is in the way we approached it, and not just looking at this as a blanket solution to the issue, but really getting down on the ground, working with our facilities to understand what are the opportunities for us to really be able to support our communities. So we really looked at opportunities across the globe within our facilities to be able to build that trust with partners in a very chaotic time. So it really goes to show that it pays to build the trust with some of those partners where you're able to act very quickly and to be able to collaborate and also give up control in many times, because you are responding so quickly to this pandemic. And perhaps one additional feature that really inspired me internally in the partnerships is the way our employees and our dealers responded to the pandemic. We have a matching gifts program where we looked at a 2-to-1 match, and we surpassed those numbers in the first week. And this is a pandemic that affected everyone, including you and I. So to see the level of response that we have seen from our own stakeholders, from our own employees, was truly remarkable to see how people really rose to the occasion. The third component I would say is really in that response and relief is there's the immediate response, but also looking at the long-term impact on manufacturing. So how do we really stand up programs that not just affect us in the time being, but also look at the long-term effect of this pandemic, and how do you really structure programs that directly impact some of the components you talked about, especially in the skills development space, in the new way of providing training, etc. So some of our examples include partnership with the Boys and Girls Club and a couple of other entities like that, where we're really not just focused on that immediate response, but also on the long-term relief.
Well, and you touched on two things that go to my next question, both working locally in the community, because workforce development is local. Our companies have local, right? Yes, you are a global company headquartered here in the U.S., but you're working locally and your workforces are local. So, as the Caterpillar Foundation is laser focused on creating the workforce of the 21st century, I know you have a huge focus on STEM, and that's long-term workforce development. So tell us about what your foundation is doing to engage students differently in STEM topics now at a time when most education is happening virtually.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so critical. And the foundation's really focused around building resilient communities. And that is the mission that we're really focused on. And as part of that, workforce development, including STEM education, is such a critical part of that delivery. I do want to highlight the fact that when we think about manufacturing, we're not just focusing on that future of work or the lack that we're seeing today. In fact, not just the future, but the current work, job skills that we're seeing in the STEM space, but also in the vocational training space, and also looking at digital upskilling. So those are some of the areas that we're really focused around. But specific to STEM, you're right in that we do have a responsibility to really build up a diverse pipeline in our communities. And two ways in which we're looking at this: it's so critical for us to have a systemic change happen, not just at the student at the pipeline level, but also at the training and the teacher level. But at the same time, how do we really impact the high school in our own community that is in an underserved location? So our approach has really been around a grassroots effort in addressing some of the STEM issues that we're seeing. For example, in Decatur, Illinois, we look at a program called Operation Calculus, where we've been partnered with them on a long-term basis to really help advance math curriculums in local high schools. And it's really exciting to see that over the course of a few years, we're starting to see 100% of the graduates really go into a STEM career from those programs. So that's at the grassroots level, but also understanding that this is a global issue, and we're seeing this skills gap across the globe, whether it's in our own backyard or whether it's in a country like India or Brazil. So how do we really tackle that, and how do we build some of those multi-sectoral partnerships, whether that's with an engagement with the UN Foundation and the Girl Up program, and really bringing manufacturing into the STEM space and looking at what we're calling Y-side camps, where girls have an opportunity to be really exposed to manufacturing STEM, which is very different from that of the technical STEM education. So for us, it's really in being able to take that multi-pronged approach for a grassroots support as well as a systemic support to STEM education.
So let me ask one final question before we switch over to Paul. And I think it tees up his piece nicely. As you look at modern manufacturing today and look at what's coming in the future, what advantages do you see the next generation of manufacturing employees? What advantages are they likely to have because of the technological breakthroughs we keep seeing in manufacturing today? What do you see coming?
Yeah, construction has definitely grown in the last decade or so, and it has also given us opportunities to technologically advance in that space. And I think one of the things that we're seeing from our customers is really in the challenges that we're seeing is to be more efficient on the ground, improve the safety, and also really focus on technological solutions that can be more efficient and innovative. I would say one such area is in the autonomous space, especially in mining. A recent statistic that I heard is that Caterpillar has the highest number of miles in the autonomous space, which is probably not something that you would hear publicly, but it's those types of activities that we really see are in the future of what we're calling innovation, and that really focuses and goes back to your previous question of STEM and digital upskilling, where the talent is needed in order to be able to advance in some of those technologies and innovation. So I think it's great that we are looking at some of those technological advantages, but at the same time, if you're not building that ecosystem around it and building up that diverse pipeline for it, then you're really not able to fulfill those skills, and we'll constantly see an increasing gap in the jobs available to the skills that are available. So that's really where our focus is in being able to fill that opportunity gap that we're seeing in the skill space with STEM and digital upskilling.
Which is a great segue. Thank you for that. It's a great segue for the conversation with Paul. Paul, Deloitte has been the MI's lead research partner in so many different areas, but specifically and critically the skills gap. I think the seminal report that almost all of our work is really based on. So, we've worked on this for many years. The most recent skills gap study came out in 2018. The fundamentals haven't changed. You and I have talked about that a bunch. But what's the one point from the study that you think parents should really hear loudly and clearly?
Well, thanks, Caroline, and thanks for that question. And Asha, thanks for your kind of teeing up all the exciting things that the Caterpillar Foundation is supporting. Just to kind of go on one slight tangent, I just was appointed to the Deloitte Foundation, and it's really interesting to hear kind of the parallels that we've got in our foundation work, Asha. We're funding some things around coding and analytics in the Cristo Rey schools to try to get at kind of the 9 through 12 crowd. We're doing a number of things kind of focused on the digital divide, equity and inclusion, other kinds of activities as it relates to just trying to help in our local communities as they've dealt with COVID in a lot of different ways. So it's really exciting to see how aligned we are as large organizations kind of giving back to the community. But to your question, Caroline, if I am kind of giving advice to parents, it's funny to think, right? It's not, your father's manufacturing, if you will. It's been repeated many, many times before that manufacturing is no longer the dirty, dark, and dangerous industry of the past. It really represents a future that is very, very innovation oriented, very, very analytical oriented, very, very technology oriented. The future is really digital, and manufacturers really need people who can use technology, whether it's AR, VR, or artificial intelligence, or other STEM-related technologies that are either applied in the front office or in the manufacturing space. So to parents, I would say it's those STEM-related classes that are the most critical classes that you can get your children to take, whether it's in kind of the K through 8 range or the 9 through 12 range. Building that foundation of analytical and thoughtful capability is very, very important. Whether you're working with your hands or whether you're working with a computer, I think having those digital skills will be really important to helping us fill the skills gap that we've got here over the next decade. That 2.4 million jobs that we see out there, I don't think is getting any smaller as we think about all the needs that are out there in the marketplace. And, these are very competitive, salary jobs, dynamic career paths, opportunities to work in lots of different environments. So manufacturing can be a really fun and exciting place to be. And as I said, it's no longer that, dirty, dark, and dangerous industry of past generations.
No, I've traveled to many manufacturing facilities. I've seen a Caterpillar facility in Wamego, Kansas, facilities all over the country making all sorts of different products, and I'm always impressed at just the wow of what our sector does every day. And it's the things that make our life possible, right? Every single thing around us. So, Paul, to go to your point, I think that underscores the reason why I should say yes whenever my children ask me to play more Minecraft. Those digital skills are really important. And, I know that's a great tool, they say. So, as you look at and you guys are truly our go-to experts on the future of work, which is really something that people have a hard time getting their arms around. As you go to, how do we prepare for that? How do we prepare the next generation as your foundations do the work, as the Institute does our work with the next generation? What do you think are some of the highest in-demand skill sets? And where do you see the most room, besides those digital skills, really for young people? And are they all, this is something we talk about a lot. STEM skills seem unattainable for a lot of folks, like, oh, that's for the scientists, for the R&D. A lot of them, like the digital skills, are things that you have to be accessible and active with. But I know that there are other skills that are often talked about in this space. So what else would you highlight in the future of work skill sets, Paul?
Well, I think as you've said, you've visited lots of different factories, and I know you had a recent chance to visit our Wichita smart factory that we're putting in place. And, as we think about Deloitte, what is Deloitte doing in the manufacturing space? We're setting up a digital smart factory to enable the visualization of all of these technologies coming together for our clients. So it's an exciting place for us to be, and it's really caused us to, continue to think about what are those right mix of skills that help straddle both the kind of the digital side of things and the human side of things. How do kids leverage their gaming skills? How do kids leverage their creative skills? How do kids leverage some of the, kind of the math and programming that might be doing, at home? There's a lot of different things that we would like to, see kind of young, students, whether it's in, high school or college, begin to leverage. If you step away from the kind of the analytical or the math pieces, it is being a good critical thinker. How do you, no matter what your background is, think critically kind of around a challenge? How do you think about solving problems? How do you, figure out, a material supply shortage problem because you've never had that kind of experience in your past, and it's, how would you think about going about solving that problem? It's thinking about language and communication, because those are very important. Again, whether you're on the shop floor, whether you're in the front office, or whether you're in an engineering role, the ability to communicate your ideas and help others understand the things that you're thinking about are really important skills. As for where to start, there's a lot of good pathways, and we've described many of those pathways, based upon where we see jobs going in the future. But there's a lot of different pathways depending on the type of job, the level of education and training that you already have, the level of education and training that you might need to kind of get to that particular pathway. For those students who go down a degree-oriented career, engineering roles will continue to be in high demand in the coming years as a wide swath of the baby boomers head toward retirement. STEM or even STEAM-oriented careers are in high demand across manufacturing, analytics, the ability to work with big data science roles, on top of all of the kind of the more typical, engineering or engineering type roles. Students who can find a pathway through technical certifications, into roles that are hands-on in the production floor, whether it's in machine operation or in robotics or in programming or in, debugging processes, can also have, very, very rewarding careers. And I know, companies like Caterpillar and others are dying to get their hands on, young people who are interested in manufacturing careers.
Absolutely. And so that brings us to my final question, and this is for both of you. Manufacturing, like all industries in the U.S., need to become substantially more diverse and inclusive. This year, just over the summer, the manufacturers in the U.S. committed to a pledge for action through the National Association of Manufacturers. And in that pledge, promising to work to bring about more opportunities and equity for Black people and people of color across the industry. So tell me a little bit about how diversity, equity, and inclusion can strengthen our workforce and how you look at it through your companies.
Sure, I can go first. So at Caterpillar and Caterpillar Foundation, this is such a critical piece of how we do work, and it is so evident in when all of this was happening in our own country, to see our CEO and Chairman Jim Umpleby really come out and give a public statement about this very cause. And followed with the Caterpillar Foundation committing to fight social injustice and racism, and really supporting organizations that are working at the core of this. But the reality of this is, Carolyn, is that this isn't a short-term fix or a short-term issue. So knowing that there is that immediate reaction to what's going on and that support, but in the long term, what we are committing to as a company and as a foundation is really in supporting organizations and looking at, as you talked about, manufacturing and a diverse pipeline within our own industry, in understanding how can we commit to innovations, solutions, opportunities that can really tackle some of the issues that we're seeing, not just in our own backyard, but also globally, understanding what the issues are across the globe, and also committing to that in the long term. So it's a journey, but I think what we're really focused on is in that cultural shift and that systemic shift that we can make both internally and externally, as well as across our industry.
Absolutely. Paul?
Well, so I couldn't agree with you more that it is going to be a long journey. It is not about the short term, and it's not about a short-term fix. We've been dealing with inequity, problems across different, slices of society, both in the U.S. and globally, for a long time. And as we think about kind of, the workplace and the workforce, that diverse workforce is going to be critical to all of us, continuing to thrive as organizations, but thrive as a country. We are committed along the same lines with our top leaders, with both dollars and action as it relates to a number of different, activities kind of in the space of diversity and inclusion. But I think the most important thing that we as, leaders in our communities and in our organizations need to do is to keep the focus on this. We can't let it become the kind of the topic du jour. We really have to focus on this long journey and this transformation that we need to do to become a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive society, as well as organizations that embed DE&I in the fabric of our companies.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you both more. It's not only what we're doing, but it's how we're doing it and continuing the effort. None of this is going to be achieved overnight. Our goals to the Pledge for Action is our long term. What do we do? How do we get there by 2025 and by 2030, with the ultimate goal of having the manufacturing sector reflect the larger labor force by 2030? And that we do have a way to go. And with partners and leadership with companies like yours, I'm sure we're going to get there. So, we'll continue our work from the Institute to build up the talent pipeline. If you're interested in the MI's workforce development programs, such as Heroes Make America, our integrated certification and career readiness program for veterans and military folks in the military community, or STEP Women's Initiative, you can learn more at the manufacturinginstitute.org. You can also learn about FAME, our Advanced Manufacturing Apprenticeship Program, which was originally founded by Toyota and is operating in multiple states across the country. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you both for taking the time out of your day to be part of this conversation. And thanks for all of your interest in the future of modern manufacturing.
That's it for our program. To learn more about the resources available for young people interested in manufacturing, you can visit www.creatorswanted.org. We also encourage you to share the link to this event with your friends, family, and neighbors, so that they too can learn about how manufacturers are helping our country emerge from this pandemic renewed and stronger than before. Thanks to all of our participants, and special thanks to Walmart for sponsoring our event. And thanks to you for joining us.